that your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, your emotions and feelings, the very first time you will have ever experienced this. Hello, my name is G. You're watching Allastrology. So what that means is when stuff up there is moving around, when your feelings and emotions take a switch, sometimes you wake up in the morning, you feel a different way and you don't understand why. Like, how the hell did my mood change while I was asleep? Yeah, many times it could be that piece of beef before bed. Maybe some other stuff is going on. Maybe you've got drama going on in your life. Maybe you've got more serious things happening in your life. Or maybe the moon changed signs. Or maybe Venus is being angled in a difficult way by something. So you're not as cordial. You're not as all about peace and being polite and having etiquette, right? There's things that happen in our life that change. And I think it seems logical to me to go ahead and to find out, instead of trying to figure out, oh my God, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with me? Right? Try to see if you can see something else that may be a factor, right? There might be something you haven't considered. So it might not be that bad spot of beef, right? There might be something astrologically that plays a role in this. Yeah, it's a really good possibility. So with all that, I want to take a quick dive for the week of February 6th. Okay, this is just going to be a quick walkthrough. I'm not going to go super deep. What I do want to do is make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So here you go. You see February 6th. I'm going to try to get this up today. I'm on the phone with my mom multiple times a day now, and some of those calls are really long. So we'll see how that works out today. I got to call her right after this. Mercury. First thing we're looking at is Mercury. And if you don't know what Mercury looks like, follow my little arrow. It's over here. Watch it go. Bam. And it's going to point to Mercury. And there's Mercury. See Mercury at 23:59. 59. Mercury woke me up last night. How many of you were woken up by Mercury? I bet you were. Maybe you couldn't go to sleep, or you woke up and couldn't go back to sleep. Now, I get it. There can be a lot of other reasons why that happens. But the Mercury is the mind. The mind starts playing games. It starts double thinking, triple thinking. It's like I spy on you, right? It's like all of a sudden it's bringing up shit that you thought you had resolved and that you thought you were all good with, that you weren't concerned. You thought you had made peace with it in your head, or you didn't forget to do something, or you didn't forget to talk to somebody. So you're like, why am I rethinking this? Why am I gnawing on this again? Yeah, I'm checking for it's telling me the internet is an issue, but it's not the internet. It's StreamYard. I hope they get it by now that every time they mess up my recordings, I'm going to make it known and I'm going to keep it in my videos so that anybody watching knows. And I'm not talking crap about them. I'm just saying, okay, I'm having issues again and I pay for it. Okay, now that I got that out. So Mercury 23:59. Why is that significant? Can you see it? 23:59, right? It's in Capricorn energy. Okay, that's the sign of Capricorn. You might have seen a symbol for Capricorn that looks a little bit different, and that's common in astrology. Lots of people decide to make up their own glyphs because they feel like, they need to be updated or whatnot, or it just resonates for them better. But yeah, that's Capricorn right there. And that's Mercury in the sign of Capricorn. Mercury 23:59. So why does this matter? Who's awake? Wake up. Are you there? Put your name in the comments. Say, hey, G, I'm here. I'm watching, and I'm watching from wherever you're watching from. Maybe you're at work. Let me know. If you're at home, let me know. Let me know what country you're watching from. Also, if you do know the answer, why is Mercury 23:59 in Capricorn significant? Well, let's talk about that. Mercury began its retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. All right. Mercury is about conversations, communications, the way we think. This is the news and social media as well. It's also school, because we're learning something when we're in the sign of Mercury, but you could also be teaching something when you're in the sign of Mercury. It's learning, right? It's our mind. It's busy. It like gobbles up all the details. That's Mercury. It's like, I can't get enough. Give me some more. So you might have your phone and just be like, you may find times where you're like going insane. You're like, wait a minute, why? I can't put this damn thing down. Why? Right? That's that Mercury mind. Mercury, because it's also social media. So if you are on any social sites, consuming information, consuming what is being called news, even though it may not really be news because it's now on social media. And folks, social media, it's all about the damn clicks, man. So there may be headlines that aren't really headlines. They make it sound like it's a headline. They make it sound like it's urgent. They make it sound like it's an emergency because they need your damn click. You get it? Yeah. So Mercury at 23:59 is essentially 24 degrees. All right. And so what this means is that Mercury is almost out of its shadow zone, which is why I'm doing the video today, because tomorrow at this time, Mercury will be clearing its shadow zone. It'll be strutting past 25 degrees of Capricorn, which is where Mercury began its retrograde. Right. Conversations, communications, rethinking. This is email. This is snail mail. This is talking. This is relating, right? This is anytime we're sharing information. Mercury is the scribe, it's the writer. So it's like where we're keeping track of stuff, right? And here I am keeping track of the stars and the planets and in my own way reporting on it, right? Yeah. So Mercury clearing its shadow zone. There's a whole series done on Mercury and its recent retrograde, and it explained what Mercury was doing in Capricorn because we just talked about the meaning of Mercury, but we also need to know the meaning of Capricorn because it's Mercury in Capricorn. Yeah. So when something is in a sign, you have to know what each of those things mean. And I know that's a lot. I know it's a lot. So I'm going to break down the Capricorn meanings for you. Okay. Capricorn, get your pen and paper out. Capricorn, first thing you want to know is it's ruled by the sign, by the planet Saturn. Yeah. And so when we hear Saturn, we can also think Capricorn. When we hear Capricorn, we should also think Saturn. Going to give you the same meanings, the same definitions. Yeah. So Capricorn and Saturn, rules, responsibility, structure, organizing, but it does it in a very big way, a professional way. It's like, oh my God, I do this for my job. Capricorn is about work, it's career, it's the big work, right? You may have a job, a 9 to 5, and you're just like, oh my God, I know this isn't my real job. I know this isn't my real job. I know this isn't what I'm really here to do. It's not my vocation, right? And Capricorn and Saturn, vocation. But it can also sometimes be not so professional. It could be something that you do that you might not get paid for, but you love it. And even if you don't love it, you feel like it's your duty because not everybody is blessed where everybody can feel a source of joy when they're doing what they feel is their duty. You know, some people kind of feel like, oh God, it's a pain in the butt. It feels heavy. Capricorn is heavy. Saturn is heavy because it's the 3D, it's the material and the tangible, right? It's not the ethereal realm. It's not 5D. It's 3D energy. It's like picking up a brick and stacking bricks. That would be Saturn. And I say bricks because Saturn, Capricorn, it's all about building structures. So when you hear the word building, you know, when we think of the brick and mortar, and businesses, that's also Capricorn because it goes big. You know, it's Capricorn energy. It's rules, regulations. It's big boss energy. So it's government and big businesses, not necessarily the mom and pop. You know, it's a corporation who's going to have usually a decent amount of employees. They're going to have a human resources department. They got all these little departments because it's about structure and organizing, right? It's this system set up for success. Think about that. Think about when you go to your job and they give you this damn rule book. They give you the handbook. There's a uniform code or a uniform, right? There's a certain set of protocol, right? There's a certain set of professional rules, professional points that you have to hit, right? You got to be at work on time. You got to work X amount of hours a week. You got to actually produce and do some work, right? So there's a certain amount of responsibility and rules with Capricorn energy. Yeah. Now, if we think about people in our lives, we can also figure out a little bit more information here. And Capricorn and Saturn would be people who are in charge, people who are in a position of authority, which is why we keep hearing the word authoritarians, right? We keep hearing that when people hear people having top discussions about politics and how there's a authoritarian rule like in other countries, and there is some of that definitely happening in the United States if we're aware of what that is and what it looks like, right? Because that's somebody who abuses their power. That's someone who takes all the power and says, but it's mine. And it's all of a sudden just made all about them. And the people don't matter, right? It's power before people. And we're hearing about that because Mercury is in Capricorn and Pluto is also in Capricorn. And Pluto's all about power, power and purpose. But when you've been given great power and you're not using it in the highest standards, with a code of ethics, with a code of altruism, where everybody, like where you're trying to make sure the best and the highest is done, the good for all involved. And it's really more about, how about us very small percenters, right? How about we get the big money, the big, the big tax breaks, and you know what I'm talking about, corporate America and the big dogs, right? The big dogs. So that's abusing their power, right? That's abusing their power. I just had a conversation with a worker who was in the house today doing just some small repair work, and somehow he was bringing up a joke he had heard, and he thought it was funny, and in a way it was funny, but it wasn't, because I just kind of had this epiphany as he had told the joke, and it was something about the spy balloon being shot down. And by the way, for any of you listening, if you want to know the deal on that without all the hype, without all the clickbait, like you got to watch this because this is an emergency. Oh my God, what's going on? Please go watch Beau of the Fifth Column, Beau. He will break things down for you in a very logical, rational way. And he's open to communications and questions, and he's on all the social medias, and I don't follow him like that, but he has the clearest, the clearest explanations, and they're not like, they're down to earth. He uses words anyone can understand. And yeah, just please, he explains this. He's got 2 videos about the China spy balloon or whatever they're calling it. Okay. So do yourself a favor. If you don't know, go check that stuff out. Beau of the Fifth Column. I'll put a link below. I pray I remember. But anyway, so Pluto and Mercury. Now, Mercury being at the end of its shadow zone means that all of you people who have been coming to me about work and your jobs, and you're saying, gee, what the hell's going on? My job is changing, or I just lost my job, or I just lost my job. I started another job, and now that job's over, and now I'm starting yet another job. Mercury likes options. Mercury wants to have options. Okay. So the thinking for the past few months has been, this is all just kind of an experiment. It's all a test. None of this is permanent yet. It's all going to change again because Mercury was retrograding through Capricorn, your job, your career. You see? And then there's conversations and communications, and big businesses is thinking and making decisions and making cutbacks, right? Big businesses are making cutbacks. So everybody is kind of in limbo because of that, right? Everybody's in limbo. So I know it doesn't make it easy, but it's just explaining here that when you look at the planets, it's like, this is what's going on. This is the cycle we're in. Okay. And so when Mercury gets to 25 degrees, being out of its shadow zone, let me grab a different color here for you. Once Mercury's out of its shadow zone, once it hits that 25-degree point, it then becomes more stabilized. It then becomes more about conversations and communications that you can rely on. They are not necessarily going to be like a 2-sided conversation where this person said this, and then a minute later they said this, where it seemed like it was contradictory. This is going to be a little bit more stable. Okay. But be aware of a big announcement, a big communication, because that Mercury at 23, you see that, right? Mercury at 23:59, which I said is 24, it goes forward. It'll get to 25 tomorrow, and that will be Tuesday, the 7th. And then on the 8th and the 9th, so we're talking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week of February, Mercury will be conjunct Pluto. Mercury will be conjunct Pluto. So I would expect some event in the news, and it has to do with business and government. Okay. Think of worldwide. This isn't just the US, businesses and governments. It's big information, it's big news, and it's Pluto. Right now, I know there was a huge, huge earthquake in Turkey. I heard this morning, Monday morning. And so that's a big deal. A lot of deaths already. But this is really about government and politics. I also heard something about the Koch brothers getting involved. Tons of money, sick money they donate right to campaigns. But they're jumping in and yeah, unbelievable amount of money that they're jumping in with. So that's a big deal. And that would kind of go along this lines here. Okay. But when we talk politics, in the US and probably in other places, I don't know other places, government, business and yeah, money and corporations absolutely have everything to do with our politics, right? Wall Street and politics. Venus in Pisces. Venus is money. Venus is our values. She's in Pisces. Pisces is politics. It's the show. It's what's happening in front of us, even though there might be other backroom deals going on that we actually don't see, right? That we're not privy to. This is the show, Pisces. Pisces is also entertainers. It is also musicians, actors, actresses, because it's performance, music, sound, Pisces energy, movies, Hollywood, Pisces energy. It is also understanding. It is also understanding, and it can be forgiveness. It's meditation and prayer. That's all Pisces energy. All of those things are Pisces. And Venus is there. So there's kind of a love for that right now, right? But it's not surprising to hear about money in politics, Venus and Pisces. And today we heard it, money and politics. And Nessa's there. Nessa's revenge. Look at that. Venus getting near Nessa, the sign that means revenge. Very interesting. So go look up the Koch brothers, or I want to say his name might even be Charles Koch. I don't know. And see what he's planning to do with his money, like what party he's planning on dumping that into. But just see Venus connected to Nessa, revenge. Very interesting. And then we have White Moon Lilith at 20. And then White Moon Lilith being at 20 is going to be near Neptune. More dreams, more fantasy. It's very sacrificial energy, Pisces energy. It's the fishes. So it can be a little indecisive. It can all of a sudden change direction because the water changes, right? If you're in the water, 1 minute, all of a sudden, everything's all great. You're having a good time. And all of a sudden there's this undercurrent, right? Or an undertow. And you're just like, whoa, what the hell just happened? And shit can change like that, right? Right. And so that's also Pisces. But Pisces is also a little murky. It doesn't, I say for people to be cautious with their money when we talk about Venus in Pisces, because we might not be real clear about our values. This is when our values start to shift a little bit, because it's in the shifty waters where the waters are a little murky. We can't see clearly in Venus energy. All right. We also are going to look real quick at Mars. And you see Mars is still at 11. Now it's like at 11:41, but Mars is really out of bounds here, folks. It's really out of bounds. Okay. So that means it's more extreme. All right. And it's no longer receiving a trine from the sun, right? Mars is no longer trining Saturn. So there might be things that were going easier a month ago as far as talking to people and neighbors and communication and coworkers even, or school. And they might not be as easy flowing right now because Mars is no longer getting a trine from the sun, right? And Venus was there too last month, right? And so that's gone too. So we just got to be like aware of that, because we might have to work a little harder to have a communication and to have a conversation. And Mars is in Gemini, which is Mercury again, because Mercury rules Gemini. So communications being quite assertive. I know for myself, I noticed some very assertive energy when I'd been on the phone, not just with my mom, but other people having conversations about my mom. And I recognized as I was talking, it was just like, it was almost like a command coming out of my voice. Like I was hearing myself and I'm just like, whoa, dude, like step down a few notches, And so, anyway, Mars can be very assertive and it is out of bounds, and it's going to stay out of bounds. Remember, folks, all the way until after March. And so we're waiting for Mars to clear its retrograde zone. And so I had to bring up Mars because even though this Mercury is done with its shadow zone, Mars is not. And Mars being in Gemini is also Mercury. I know it's crazy. okay? But it can have to do with the job. It can have to do with learning something. It can have to do with the way the information is being shared, okay? If there's a change, even though this Mercury is more stable now, we're just being aware that we're still in a flux until after March, okay? So the way you think, some things may feel like some things might not seem as confusing. Okay. But just remember, we're still waiting. We still know things are in limbo until after March because of this. March is going to be a huge month. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into March next month. And so we have multiple planets. Okay. A couple of planets that are huge, right? We have Pluto and Saturn changing signs in March. All right. And so when I talk about, I'll do another video that goes a little bit deep dive and we'll talk about where Mars is going to be at that time. But it's Pluto and Saturn leaving one sign, going into another one. And so that's always a big deal. That's always a big deal. And for us, anybody who's breathing right now, Pluto moving into Aquarius energy, this is the first time in your life that your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, your emotions and feelings, the very first time you will have ever experienced this, right? So you should expect new. You should expect different. Expect new, expect different. Pretend you're learning how to surf when you're dealing with Pluto going through Aquarius. And it might not be as extreme as, oh my God, it's so sudden, right? It might be a little bit of a gradual nudge, but for some of you, depending upon the degrees in your chart, this may be a little bit more, it may be, there might be surprises. Okay. So if you have any questions, comment below and then I will help you out as best I can. But getting back to wrap this up, Mercury will be clearing the retrograde zone, and it'll be conjunct Pluto by the end of the week of February 6th. And then shortly after that, we will have we will have Mercury entering the sign of Aquarius. So keep your eyes and your ears perked. It'll be news over the weekend. It'll be Mercury at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So it should be surprising. It should be shocking because that's what Aquarius is. Doesn't have to be bad though, because it's Aquarian energy, but it's definitely new. Never heard that before, never seen that before. It can be science, it can be medicine, it can be astrology. It's inventions for humanity. And if it's Mercury, automobiles. It's local transportation. So it can be electric, it can be alternative forms of energy, right? So this is your weekly look at February 6th. And the highlight was Mercury out of its shadow zone, touching Pluto, and then going into 0 degrees of Aquarius. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.